This is the KOHO 101 Community Connection Podcast. Check back often for a continuing look at business in the greater Wenatchee area.
It's the KOHO Morning Show. So nice to have you with us on this edition of the program. Looking forward to another chat right now with our friends from the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce. Executive Director Shiloh Burgess in-house today for another edition of our Community Connections podcast series with the Chamber. And we've got a full house once again, Shiloh. We want to welcome in from WorkSource in Wenatchee, Maria Maravilla, along with Diane Navarro, and Susan Adams and Lee Hendrickson are here as well from SkillSource in Wenatchee. Going to be talking with this quartet today, all about each organization and all about what's going on as far as the labor market's concerned, and also certainly about the work sectors here in the Wenatchee Valley and how things are going kind of coming out of the pandemic now. So gentlemen, ladies, I appreciate the time very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
All right. Well, this is a big topic for us today, Shiloh, and we have a lot of folks here to help us cover this. So I guess a good place for us to start would be just kind of an overview of what each organization does we were talking about.
I think that's important because there's kind of this myth of, well, what is SkillSource or what is WorkSource? I don't understand what they do, but I need them. And I think that's the important thing, and you guys are very needed right now. And so if you could share a little bit about what your organization does, either for the job seeker or the job provider, that would be fantastic.
Sure, we can kick things off. So I'm Maria, I'm with WorkSource, and I'm the business services representative for our office, so I work directly with our employers. But our office as a whole, we serve both our employers and our job seekers, and the ultimate goal really is to help people through their employment needs with job readiness and getting employers their positions filled. And contrary to popular belief, we are not the unemployment office. We are the employment office, really the go-to source for that. So with our job seekers, we provide kind of career coaching, assisting them one-on-one directly with their resumes or applications, and then supporting with different workshops and classes to get them prepared and brushed up and ready to go hit the workforce. And then with our employers, we help them with creating their job postings in our system on our website on WorkSourceWA.com and helping them with a little bit of recruiting. And ultimately, it's imperative to get both of them set up in our website. But once they're in there, we help them directly one-on-one. And I think that's what makes us a little bit unique, is that we're always there for support. It's not just a website. It's not just an office. We're always there. We want to help one-on-one. And then I'm joined by Diane, too, if you need to add anything else, Diane.
Yeah, thank you. As Maria said, my name is Diane Navarro, and I am the community liaison for Wenatchee WorkSource. And as she mentioned, our mission here is to connect the job seekers with the employers, as well as 2 additional resources in the community. And so one of my biggest parts of my job is going out to the community and letting the agencies and all the other businesses in the community know of the resources that we have, not only for the businesses, but for the job seekers as well.
Very good. And we move to SkillSource next and talk with, again, there's Susan Adams and Lee Hendrickson. So, Susan, take it away as far as the organization's concerned. What is SkillSource, all about?
Great. Well, that's we get that all the time. Are you WorkSource or are you SkillSource? And well, one of the big important questions for people to understand is that we are partners in the one-stop system, and so we say there is no wrong door. So if you come into the SkillSource office and the services that you're really seeking are provided better from WorkSource, we're going to refer you to WorkSource or another one of our partners in the one-stop system, which may be Wenatchee Valley College, DSHS, a multitude of partners. And then as far as SkillSource, we say that we're training and education for employment. And so we provide both training and education to job seekers, and then also we help businesses train their employees, whether it's on-the-job training or incumbent worker training. And so in order to learn a little bit more, and really the secret behind those, I've brought one of our dynamic staff members, Lee Hendrickson, to tell you a little bit about that.
I see. You meant me. I understand. It's in the name. You know, if you have a job in mind and you're prepared to go to work, WorkSource is going to get those connections for you as quickly as possible. At SkillSource, it's in the name. If there's a gap between the job you want and the skills that you have, we're going to help you figure out what that is. Do you need some formal training? Is there funding for the formal training? Do you need on-the-job training? What's the funding for the on-the-job training? There are a variety of funding sources available to help pay for training, whether it's on the job or at school. We provide some of it, but we know all of it. So we kind of look at ourselves as a way to make sure you get the education you need to go to work. Also, some of the details of just figuring out the perfect job. That can take some time. We we like to spend some time with you right up front, help you understand who you are, what are your interests, what are your abilities, what job is going to be the best fit for you. And we offer that absolutely for free. Did I mention there was no charge for that? You can come to our workshop, you spend a few days with us, learn a lot about yourself and a lot about the labor market, learn about all the resources that are available to help you to get from where you are to where you want to be. And we take great pleasure in doing that. We'd love to have you.
I think that is so important right now coming out of this global pandemic. You know, a lot of shifts have happened for individuals. A lot of changes happened, whether they love the job and they can't wait to get back to it, but that job might have changed and there's new technology associated with it and they may need some brushing up on that, or whether they're just going, I don't want this job anymore. It's not what I want to spend my life doing, and that's okay. And they want to try something different. Or maybe they're even new to the area and they want to get plugged in and they want to get a job. And so I would just love to know, like, what is the biggest challenge or opportunity facing those that are seeking jobs, or what's the biggest challenge or opportunity facing those that are seeking help in filling those jobs? So anyone can jump in on that.
I would like to jump in on that first. The first thing I think of is the personal mindset. I mean, a year and a half, has it been longer than a year and a half ago? People had to disconnect from their jobs, go home, stay home, and not do anything. And it did something to our collective psyche. We also work with youth, and we've watched them have to leave their schools and go home and just be home. And that idea of leaving your home, going out, engaging again, working again, going to school again, it's proved to be a real challenge. The statistics of how many people disengaged and haven't re-engaged yet. The fact that we have this record unemployment rate when we have record numbers of employers looking for people to go to work, and we can't get people to want to leave their house and go to work, I think is a real indicator of what this has done to our collective psyche. So for me, the number one thing is, we've got to get it in our head that it's safe to leave our houses. We should be taking responsibility and stepping up and taking advantage of this labor market. I mean, now is your chance. Mm-hmm. Employers are willing to give people a chance that maybe wouldn't have had a chance a year and a half ago. Maybe you don't have the education or the experience. Right now, employers are ready to take a chance on people. It is your chance to get in on a job that you maybe wouldn't have had that chance before. So take advantage of that if that is you. Did I say that all right? Okay.
Yes, I think you covered it. And I think on the employer end of things, speaking from the experience that we've had in directly assisting our employers, I can say that I receive phone calls every day from employers that are struggling to hire. Everybody needs to hire right now. Mm-hmm. So the positions are out there.
They are.
There's vast positions. They're just the job seekers are what are missing. So we have a shortage in that right now. And I think with assisting our employers these days, a major challenge has been that they call us and they just want people. They want people yesterday or last year. And so it's been a major struggle to offer those candidates when we don't necessarily have a candidate pool readily available. But what's been really helpful for us is having them get set up in our website, because then we're able to use their employer accounts and do a little bit of recruiting to those individuals for those job seekers that are actually set up in the system. And again, they're limited, but there's some that are in there. But that's been the biggest struggle, is mm-hmm. needing job seekers, needing candidates yesterday.
That's what we're seeing also, mm-hmm. yeah.
I'm curious to know if each of your organizations works through employment security at the state level. Do you
Yes.
actually help? I mean, do they help you actually get some of the traffic that they're seeing from the unemployment line, essentially, as it used to be known?
Yeah, I would say so. One of the things that a unemployment claimant is supposed to do is they're required to look or make 3 contacts a week to remain eligible for their unemployment. So that has increased the amount of traffic coming into WorkSource. They are also allowed to participate in WorkSource activities, which would include like a workshop or other events like the virtual Meet the Employer. So that's also increased in attendance. In fact, our workshops are so flooded, we have a ginormous wait list. So out of like maybe 365 people that register, only 100 will actually be able to attend. And out of those 100 that are actually able to attend, only about 60 will attend. So to answer your question, yes, it has helped.
Very good. And also at SkillSource, do you work through the folks at Employment Security as well? Or?
Well, they are partners in our one-stop system. So Employment Security, WorkSource, refers candidates to SkillSource for training and education. So again, that no wrong door. If a candidate comes through their door that the services they need are really training and education, then they're going to refer them over to us. And initially, a lot of those job seekers will start with our initial workshop. that Lee was speaking about, helping people figure out where they're at, where they want to go, and what that skill gap is, so that we can help them address having funding and resources for them to get the training that they need.
Yeah, and Lee also. Go ahead, Lee. I'm sorry.
Well, something we've done that we kind of pride ourselves on in this area is that the various organizations have become very well versed in what each other has to offer and working very closely. So when Susan uses the "no wrong door" phrase, we mean that. If you wander into any of our offices, we know what questions to ask. We know which partner has the resources, and we know how we all work together. So you just can't go wrong. The trick is just to leave the house and walk in the door. That is kind of the first hurdle. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Lee, you articulated a lot of reasons why folks are not heading back to work, not heading back into the workforce. A lot of changes there. One of the reasons that could be out there comes to mind as far as the unemployment benefit system is concerned. And I'm wondering if, because at the time we're talking, we're about a couple weeks out from a big change happening in that system where folks have to begin reporting that they're looking for a job, unlike during the pandemic when not only was that not a requirement for a time, but also they were receiving additional money, quite a bit of additional money actually on top of what they would typically have received in unemployment benefits. So that also could be a major reason why folks were just staying home or are staying home to say, look, I make more not working than I do working. And it's sad to know that people have that mentality in general. I would love to go back to work, I think, in that situation. I hate being unemployed, but that has to be a factor too. So are you bracing, I guess, in short, for a big crush of people here soon?
Believe me, we're hoping. I suspect there's going to be an increase in traffic with the timing. I remember in 2008 when the recession hit, and a lot of people got laid off, and we were swamped, and we all got together and made it happen. At the time, there were people who figured out how to function without a job. And even after things changed, they decided not to go back to work. They changed things in their family or changed things in their life. So I know there's going to be people who, after a year and a half of this, they've come to terms with things, they've made different arrangements in their family, and it may look like a different labor market coming out. But at some point, people are going to be showing up, and they're going to want to know what to do. Well, the good news is we have funding. We have funding for training. We have staff. Resources to help you make the connections. We have ways to get you connected with employers. You just got to make the step. And I can imagine after a year and a half of not making those steps and being at home and focusing on home and staying safe, it can be really hard for people's mindset to, I got to leave the house. I got to make that phone call. But I'm going to encourage you to do it, because there's going to come an avalanche when everybody's doing it. And the sooner you do it, the better. Am I okay?
Yeah, and I would say that even in typical times when individuals are on unemployment, a lot of people jump right in and use the resources that are available to them during that period of time. And then there's always a sector that wait, right? Mm-hmm. They sit on it. And we've seen it frequently in the past where individuals will come in and they have 1 week of unemployment. They may have 1 day left, and it has become an emergency. Mm-hmm. And so we just really encourage people, take that step now. Don't wait until that last day or when your last check is in the mail. That's probably old school by saying in the mail.
Do people need to bring anything? Because I think that's really important, right? Like, that thing that needs the most attention gets that most attention, right? And so it is really great. I'm so grateful you guys have come in to talk with us and the listeners. And if you're listening and you know someone who is still in unemployment and their payments are going to start reducing and they're going to be earning that courage to get maybe more interested, what would they need to bring to you all for assistance? Should they come prepared with anything, just themselves and that's it? Or do you always say, hey, if you've got a few of these documents laying around, it's helpful, an old resume or anything like that to help them start the process? I
always say if you're unemployed and have a pulse, come in the door and we can get you started from there. Previous work histories, previous resumes, those work history, those things, those are valuable. But to get started, really, if they just get in the door,
do they need an appointment?
Right now, if they come in the door, we might be able to help them right on the spot. we have the resources to at least get them started, and then we can set them up with an appointment for a one-on-one. But if they have the time to make an appointment ahead of time, that's great. And just like Lee said, as long as they come in with motivation and ready to get started, we'll help them. If they don't have a resume, we'll help them. They just need to gather that information for us. If they don't have computer skills, we have the resources to help them with that as well. So yeah, they just need to come in with that motivation to get started.
And where do they call?
They can call our office, which is the 509-665-6605.
Does she get extra points because she has that memorized?
Yes.
All right.
The toaster oven goes to WorkSource this morning. SkillSource is right there too, but you can contact them, of course, too. So, I had one more question for all of you as well, or whoever wants to weigh in on this, because it comes to mind about pivot. Is this buzzword of the entire pandemic, and so largely we've talked about how employees have pivoted during the pandemic. They had to stay home. They had to do something, and they've made all these moves. They've decided that the job that they were in didn't work for them. They've found a new career line. They decided not to work. Dual income before becomes one income they can get by. Stay-at-home moms and dads are born. Those kinds of things. But I wonder about the opposite side of that equation, the pivot that goes on in the employer sector. And the question that comes to mind is, are these jobs that we're seeing right now that are available so prolifically, are they going to be on the vine eventually? I mean, are these going to stick around, or will these go away? Will the employers pivot after so many months and say, we're just taking this off the table, the opportunity's gone?
That's an excellent question. The trend for decades has been any job that can be automated and remove the human element will be and has been. I mean, we've seen the kind of jobs you used to be able to drop out of school and go get at the factory. We watch those disappear by the thousands. And so more and more, the only jobs available are for people either with computer skills, some technology skills, specific trade skills, or communication skills. So I'm hoping we're never going to come to a day where you go to the restaurant and the robot comes out and takes your order. Although if we don't find some people who want to work in food service, you are absolutely right. Employers will start buying a robot instead of trying to find someone. So I think we've always been seeing that. This will definitely bring it out. I'm hoping not to the extreme that we'd be afraid of, but that we will see people, especially those service industries, and you go somewhere and you get a cup of coffee, you want to interact with that human that's making your coffee, and I don't think that is going to change. Am I saying it correctly? Or okay.
Yeah, I think you touched on really good points, Lee. And I think to add a little bit more to your question, Chris, I can say that from a lot of the employers that we've been assisting, yes, they have definitely pivoted in a different direction because we are in reactive mode coming out. And I think some of the factors that they've been facing is kind of transitioning, reopening, and then having to retrain staff for those that lost staff and staff that came back. So they're investing a lot. They're trying to think of ways to bring in people and to keep them around because they're losing a lot also when they're training individuals and then they're leaving for whatever reason, whether it be to the other side of the mountains, like often happens even, pre-pandemic, or because a lot of individuals are on unemployment. So I think it's a good question to ask, but I think it's very early on to determine that. I think that this is also creating an opportunity for employers to see things a little bit differently. I've noticed some flexibility in the employers that we've assisted where they're a little more flexible in the skill set that they're requiring. They're a little bit more open to individuals being a little bit more green, willing to provide a little bit more training, paying for training or different certifications and classes. So I feel like that's really good opportunity that's being offered to job seekers, and I do think that it'll ultimately kind of change the way that we do things, just like we have been providing services virtually, just like Zoom and all these platforms took over, where we're kind of incorporating hybrids now. I think with employers, changing and tailoring some of their positions is something that's going to stick. Again, it's probably too early to tell, but I do see some of that sticking around. And with our agency, with the Employment Security Department, and just to clarify a little, because I know we've been bringing up the name a lot, but so the Employment Security Department is an agency. It's our state agency, and WorkSource is a division of it. So we're kind of an umbrella. So we're tied to them for those unemployment claimants that are receiving their benefits. It's directly through the Employment Security Department, and we support in their job search criteria. And our agency does offer a great program, and I don't want to butcher it or misguide anybody, so I'm going to say it's the Shared Work Program. And essentially, in a very brief nutshell, what it does is it provides partial funding. So it works with employers. So if you've had to reduce your labor force and you've laid off individuals for whatever reason, they can come in and kind of provide part of the salaries while the job seeker, I'm not thinking correctly, while the staff is still also receiving unemployment benefits. So if I work for you, Chris, and you're on the shared work program, you can have me under that program. I can receive a certain amount of salary from the shared work program through the Employment Security Department, and then I can also be receiving unemployment benefits at the same time. So that's been a program that's given a little bit of support as well through all these transitions that employers have had to face.
A lot of employers have used shared work successfully, which has been able to keep their employees engaged while also being able to keep their doors open.
Yes.
And a little bit more to your question, there's always a possibility of attrition in jobs, right, as things happen. Right now, though, because of what people around me are categorizing as the Great Resignation instead of the Great Recession, so many employees have just shifted, right? And so now they're being very thoughtful. Yes, they're willing to offer more, but they're also being very intentional of, this is what this job is like. This is what this culture and this team is like. And so I think it's really greatly the advice of get to know yourself, right? Like, this is an awesome opportunity for employees to be interviewing those employers to try to make that career match and start something magical for both that employer and that employee. And we're going to be announcing here in the not too distant future, we found an employee, which is really exciting. And they're younger and they're a little green, but they're very passionate and very excited, and they believe in the mission of what we're doing, and they're excited to be here and, you know, home. And there is great opportunity to make that match. So whether the employer's done the work to say we've adapted our business and these are now the positions that we really need for the time that we're in, and we hope to have them available as long as the world around us allows that to occur, as well as the employees that are saying, hey, I know a little bit more about me, and I'm excited to be able to get with a company that values that and wants to invest in me as well.
Well, and Shiloh, you talked about employers adapting, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but we've received COVID relief funds along with the funds that we typically receive that can help that employer with adapting with training, on-the-job training. We can reimburse employers up to 50% of wages for typically 2 to 4 months for training somebody, green, or where that skill gap is. Also for employers that already have a workforce, but they're skilling them up. Incumbent worker training. We, through either a 25 or 50% match, we can fully fund incumbent worker training up to $25,000 per employer. So a lot of resources for both the employers during this time and then the job seekers. And
just another little, maybe a rainbow in the cloud. So I know typically pre-pandemic, we were at record low unemployment since 1968, and everybody's working and going crazy. And if you do a new hire, employers didn't always have the time or the energy or the focus or a plan to train the new person. And I talked to a lot of frustrated employers who their new hires don't perform the way they would like, and often they don't have a real set training plan in place anyway. So now, since employers are having to, like you said, hire people that are more green than they would normally, they're starting from scratch. Those of you, I was talking to employers, those of you for whom this has worked out, don't change. If you've figured out a way to take people who are relatively new, get them trained and it's working out, remember what you did, write down what you did, make a plan, and stick with that. And maybe the silver lining in this is that employers will have learned how to invest in their employees up front and suffer less frustration down the road. And in addition, of course, you have WorkSource with you, and like as Susan said, with SkillSource, if we're helping fund the training, you have us and you have our staff alongside to help that new hire gain the skills, even if they're not work-related skills or whatever it is they need, and we're happy to help fund that as well. Did we mention we can help fund that? Did we mention that? All right.
Well, we're hoping that there's some silver linings that do come out of the pandemic situation. It sounds like we've covered a few of them here today, and no one wants to see Lee's dystopian thoughts of McTesla. I don't think that's not something that we need in this world at all. So push for that too. I mean, I do that even when I see like the stores that I go to put in the scanners for self-check, and it's not like I don't use them, but I always say, hey, do we really need more of these? Let's put somebody else there to bag my groceries and check my groceries out, because they all say, oh, it doesn't replace people. It's absolutely as Lee said, it replaces people. There's no question about it in the long run. So Lee Hendrickson, Susan Adams with us today from SkillSource, Maria Maravilla, and Diane Navarro with us today from WorkSource, along with Shiloh Burgess, Executive Director of the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce, for another installment of our series of Community Connections podcasts with the Chamber. Lee, ladies, I appreciate the time very much. This was a lot of great information, and we'll look forward to finding out some more details down the road. And Shiloh, we're going to see you again real soon.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us for the KOHO 101 Community Connection Podcast, a look at business in the greater Wenatchee area.